Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the video you've all been waiting for. The next part of my How to Make a Comic Book series. Creating a page. Yes, that's right. This is the episode where I'm going to be showing you actually how to put together, draw, and ink a finished comic book page. Now, up on the screen right now, I'm going to put the actual script that we're going to be using. It's the one that we made in the scripting episode. So you'll be able to use that. Also, you'll notice that I'm giving you links in annotations of times of the video, allowing you to seek to different parts of the video because I'll be doing it in sections. I'll be doing the first part, which will be the brainstorming and page layout. The next part will be the penciling stage, and then the last part will be the inking stage. Now, this allows you to skip through the video for parts that you may be more focusing on. So if you just want to be an inker, you can skip to the inking stage. And the same thing with the penciling and so forth. So now, this also allows you, if you don't have time to watch the entire video now, you can always watch it later and just skip through parts. So now, without further ado, let's move on to the first part, which is the brainstorming and page layout phase. Alright, now the first part of making a comic book page itself is the brainstorming and page layout. Now in this stage, what you're doing is you have your script, and as you look over the script, and depending on who you wrote your script, will kind of determine a little bit how this stage goes. If you have someone who's using their script more solidly, meaning they write down every little detail they want in the panels, panel per panel, per page and all that system, then you have more of an idea, and it's a little easier on you because you're seeing what's going on. Now, if not, if they just kind of give you a broad idea and then just basically tell you to go with it, it can be a little harder, but it's also a little more fun that way because you can be more creative. Now, on this stage, what you're doing is you're taking that script or that idea and you're roughing it out. Now, what I have here, you can use multiple things. What you want to do is take either a plain piece of just white paper, computer paper. You can use an old notebook from school that you're not using because, might as well use it for something. Take that, and basically what you're going to do, I'm just going to use regular white paper, and what you're going to do is you're going to lay out the page itself. And you're going to do like thumbnail sketches, basically. And a thumbnail sketch is just a small little, it's like that, not even much bigger than that, where you're going to quickly rough in the panel layouts. And I actually have printed out here some pages here which have a bunch of like ideas for panel layouts. And I use this kind of as reference just to make it a little easier and quicker to come up with ideas. And they have multiple different, stylings and different ideas for different types of panels and such. And it's really helpful to have something like this. If you don't have something like this, which I would suggest you just print it out. I'll leave a link because I think the person I got this from was on DeviantArt. If I can find them, I will leave a link to their packet, the little pack here, so you can download it too. But if you don't have this, that's fine. You can just as easily go over to your, stack of comic books and just, like what I'm about to do, just grab a comic book of yours. Like this one, this is Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, Frank Miller. Very good book, I recommend it. And just kind of sift through it, and sift through some of the pages and see how they laid out the pages. You can see here John Romita Jr., not to be confused with his father, kind of went with a more simplistic layout system where it's very straightforward. You could see the guides and you could see the borders and all easily. It's very old-fashioned, which I can show you by looking at an older book. This is from a collection of books, reprints basically. But you can see here how the older books used to be drawn. Very straightforward. And there's nothing wrong with this. This is a perfectly good way of doing it. But basically that's what you're doing, is you're going to come up with ideas of how you want your book to be laid out. And that's basically what I'm going to do here. I'm going to come up with ideas of, based on the script, what I want to, this to look like. So I'm going to turn the page sideways so I can get a little more room. So basically, you're literally just going to just make your own like little, doesn't have to be perfect, it has to hold your ideas. So let's say, for this one, we have page 1 is basically just kind of introing our character. I think the character's name was John, John Smith or something. I forgot what I really named it. It's been a little while. But panel 1, it's a bird eye view of New York, dark ambience. Panel 2 is kind of a shot of rooftop with John standing, and he's kind of looking down at the city. Panel 3 is a close-up shot of John. Panel 4 is John looking down at pocket, looking at his phone, like at his pocket. And then 5 is looking at his phone. So there's 5 panels. And we already know that the first one's kind of a nice big broad shot. So I think for that, I'm just going to kind of go with a very big, kind of intro. Just to really make it, excuse me, really sell the point here. And I could probably just make it very simple. Use use basic 1-point perspective to kind of show, I could just show buildings and stuff like that, and just kind of show the buildings in the background, just to kind of give you an ambience of what's going on. And let's just kind of quickly throw a few things in here. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be here. And there we go. Let's just throw a few things in here. Doesn't have to be perfect, just to be there. So it just kind of gives us, that's kind of a little bit of a bird's eye view. I could lower the point here to make it more really bird's eye view. Next panel is kind of a shot of the rooftop. So I think I'm going to go with a basic 5 panel layout here. Let's see, 1, I could probably go 2, 3, 4, 5. So I could do it that way. Although I think him looking at his phone would be a nice little panel I have down here in the corner. Is kind of a nice big one here. The rooftop shot I could do kind of as a small one, like right here in the corner here. And then close up of John could be a little bigger here. And then him looking at his phone, these two can be kind of equal. So that's kind of the page layout I'm going with. Just to put the point across. I'm not going to go anything fancy on this video, just because this is just to kind of give you a little look at what goes into it. So I think that'll work nice enough. But just in case, I'm going to now I'm going to go ahead and make a few more, just to kind of see what else we can do. And then I will be right back once I draw all that out. So be right back. Alright, normally I would have done 4, but after I drew this one, I kind of liked the way it was laid out. So I kind of did a couple rough, some little rough sketches inside just to see how it would flow. I thought it flowed a lot better than this one, just because of, I like the fact that this had a big panel here, so I kept that kind of idea, but I split it and gave this, instead of having this little one down here for him on the rooftop, I decided to put it here, just because I thought they gave a little more flow, because then you're going this way. It gives you that zigzag pattern, which most comic books, most comic artists like to use that type of pattern, where it's kind of your eyes being drawn across the page like that, and that's proper. And depending on where you put like the caption boxes and word balloons, like I would put like one here, that would be a caption. So your eye starts here and it flows across the page, so you'd have another one maybe down here with words, bring you over here to maybe have it over here, or have it down here, moving you around, that kind of thing. So having it pull your eye across. So you can even use caption boxes to kind of bring your eye into that motion. And that's what you want to do. You want to keep the eye moving. So this stage is the stage where you're kind of making sure that the eye is moving across the page properly, and making sure that you're getting your idea and the point across of what you were trying to do. So that's things you really want to think about when you're doing this kind of thing. Now, that's pretty much it for the brainstorming and kind of thumbnail and rough idea. You can go into a more detailed thumbnail where you take this and maybe bring it up to half size, or even like just flip over the paper and do maybe one bigger thing and redraw that just to kind of give yourself another loose idea. You can do that. I, on the other end, am just going to go straight to the part where I start sketching in on the actual pencil stage. I'm going to be using, for the penciling stage, I'm going paper-wise, I'll show you what I'll be using, and I'll show you. I'll also show you a few of the actual paper that's being used by comic book artists. So just give me a moment to set that up, and I will be right back with the next part, which is the penciling stage. So be right back. Okay, now as you can see, I've had to zoom out pretty far to do this, but I just wanted to show you right here in front of me. This is the actual comic book paper that professional comic books use. I used the blue line art. I don't know if you can see that. It's like really bright. The blue line art comic book paper. I used the very simple one, which means it just has the very basic outline. You can see there's drawing on it, and this was from a comic I've been kind of messing around with as practice. And this paper is very good for certain reasons, because it's large size, and it allows you to go in with real big detail, and you can go in there and really over detail things. You can make things bigger so you can see a lot easier. Excuse me. And when you scan it, you can scan it very large and shrink it without destroying too much of your detail, because it's already a very large image. But the paper I'm going to be using is this. It's a Bristol board that I've cut down to 8.5 by 11. It's the same type of material. Basically, this is made of Bristol board, smooth. This is a smooth surface, and this is the same thing. It's a smooth surface Bristol board. So this is what I'm going to be using right here. So I'm going to now reset up the camera, and we're going to move on to the actual penciling stage of this session. So be right back as soon as I set up. Alright, welcome to the penciling stage of our How to Create a Comic Book. Now on this part, the tools I'm going to be using are my Bristol board white paper. It's smooth. And the utensils I'm going to be using is I'm going to be using my blue lead pencil, and I have a regular black lead pencil in case I want to go over the blue once with the black just to kind of darken it, so I know my final lines before I ink it. I also have a very basic white eraser. I don't have a kneaded eraser, which I suggest and highly recommend using a kneaded eraser. It's a lot better for erasing. It gives you a lighter erase without destroying the paper. I also have an eraser on the end of this, which I can use, which is a lot smaller, so I can do small detailed stuff. But now that we have our kind of rough sketch, and we picked the one, or I picked the one that I want, which is that one, I'm now going to transfer this to kind of a bigger scale. And the other tool that you are going to be needing is a ruler of some sort. I have a metal stainless steel ruler. It's very that is real metal. It's also quite sharp, so be careful with these types. It's also a little bit indented higher, so it lifts off the paper a little bit, and that's good for inking borders because it makes it so that no ink gets on this and you don't smear the ink. So this is another handy tool to have. I have other tools and other rulers and circle makers and such like that, but for now this is just kind of the rough stage anyway, so we don't really have to worry about that. Let's just get right into it, and as I know my pattern, I can kind of set up my borders. And Normally, I would use a template to put over this and trace it so that I know my boundaries and all. And that is a very important thing to know, is your boundaries. I think I put it away, so I don't actually have my template out at the moment. But I'm sure if I take 2 seconds. Sorry, I'm not as prepared as I should be. I should be a lot more prepared than I am at the moment. But this is embarrassing. Where is it? I know I have. Oh, it's right over here. Wait. Good thing I keep everything in folders. This is where I keep my Bristol board, and this is the uncut Bristol board at the moment. Here we go. My templated page. So I might actually use this piece of paper, since it's already got the borders and templates already laid out. Yay for making things early. So this is kind of the template. Obviously, on a bigger piece of paper, this would be a lot bigger. But for now, this is what I use. This is your live area. This is the area you put a lot of your text and all, because you know that nothing's going to get cut off. This is your cut off, meaning the page will eventually be cut here. And anything outside is your bleed, meaning if you want your something on your page to go all the way to the end of the page, then you want to put it to end somewhere in outside this area, so you know when it gets cut off, there's no white border. And so let's kind of get started. This outer rim here is also around where you're going to put your borders, so you can just leave like a little gap if you want. So I know how I want this to go. So let's get right to it. I'll probably leave about a 1/2 inch, or let's see, how big of a gap do I want? I guess I can go for 1/4 of an inch. Yeah, I'll go for a 1/4 inch, give or take, border around the area. That way it's not like right up against the background. So I'm just going to quickly throw in just some quick guides for myself. Now I want this to go around here. I know this is going to be very long-winded and all, but this is kind of an important stage. In fact, I think I'll time-lapse this then. That way you don't have to sit here and watch me, messing around with this. So I will be right back once I put all the borders in. So be right back. I've darkened the panels, and let me turn the light back on. There you go. Now you can see. I've darkened them in pencil just so that you guys can see them a little better. And now we move on to the next phase of this part, which is the actual drawing part. Now, I'm going to skip the first panel because this is the bird's eye view of the city, and I use Google SketchUp to do my cities and all. Simply because I suck at drawing architecture. So I'm not going to really... oh, God, squeaky chair. Man, I'm sorry about the squeaky chair. So I'm not going to do that in pencil. I'm going to wait until after I've inked, and then I go in and add that later. So when I do the inking stage, I'll also show you kind of my final cleanup stage, and there I will show you how I go about putting that panel in. For now, I'm just going to work on the other 4 panels. And the first, or should I say second panel, as you can see here, involves kind of a little bit of above shot from behind of him, kind of our main character kind of staring off of a rooftop. So it kind of just introduces him. He's not going to be very visible, mostly just kind of like a silhouette. But the premise is to try and at least get the idea across of him being there. And I'm thinking of doing it kind of at an angle here. So, kind of showing, let's see, I'm going to show it way down here in the corner of drawing that. This will be like the rooftop ledge, and since it is a 3D structure, just to kind of give that illusion of 3 dimension, I will do that. So you can kind of see there's a ledge there. And obviously there's probably going to be like, you know, the pavement and all, and I don't know really know what I'm going to do for that yet. But anyway, he's going to be kind of standing, so I want to kind of get an angle here. His head would probably be around there. So his body would probably be right around here. Just trying to rough everything in. He's going to be wearing like a jacket, so you won't really see his legs all that much, but I'll just kind of throw those in there. And just kind of throw his arm. I'm going to have his arms kind of in his pockets, so I'll probably do more like that. Just to kind of show that. So I might have to show a little bit of that. This is the back of his head, so you won't really see much. Just kind of doing it rough. Just get the idea down. Just try and get everything down. He's wearing a jacket, obviously, so you can kind of cheat on the details a wee bit, just because it's a jacket. He's not going to be, you know, it's not going to all be perfectly clear. So that's him kind of standing there. And I'm giving him dark hair, so the back of his head will be very dark, so you can see that. Here I'll probably find a way in SketchUp to just make, to put the city and just kind of put it right there in front of him kind of looking down on the city. I might draw that back out, I don't know. But next panel is kind of a more close-up shot of him. So let's get a nice little close-up view of our guy here. Let's get a nice little view of him. I'll do kind of a classic him looking to the left shot, just because I really like that shot personally. I don't know why, I always like my characters to look to the left for some reason. I just think it looks really kind of cool. So let's do that. This is kind of a jacket. Has that kind of flare effect there. Now here I'm going to roughen all the panels before I actually do any detail work, so this is just kind of roughing in all the ideas, just get them all down. Through that crap. He's probably going to wear a shirt, so, or I mean, I'm definitely going to have him in a shirt, and then I'll probably go like that. Let's see. His nose will be right there. Yeah, I didn't cut that in half good enough, but oh well, his hairline will be up here, whatever. Next one, him looking down at his phone. So this is going to be a little difficult for me because this is kind of going to be a upward angle. So I'm going to draw some perspective. It's going to be an in perspective kind of shot. So I'm going to just draw a few perspective lines just to kind of give myself something to work with here. Because I do want this to be kind of in perspective looking down at him. So his head would be really large up here. And I'm going to kind of do it at an angle, kind of like how I did this. That way it's a little more interesting for your eye because it kind of gives you like a nice little look. Now, I don't have a ton of experience with these types of angles, so please excuse my lack of experience with this. Draw like a shoulder lines, and then that all everything has to kind of come in, so it gets smaller as it goes down. So let's do that. That'll be where his knees are. Now here I'm just kind of, I'm in this stage I'm just still kind of gesture drawing it. And you know, his phone will be kind of going off, so I might have like an effect coming out there. Over here it's just going to be kind of dead space for the for that. Although I might move him over and make him a little bigger because I don't like him. I might make him take up a little more space. And then down here is him actually checking his phone. So this will be kind of a nice big shot of his face. Although I actually might make him a little bigger here. Just because in this one he's actually looking at his phone. he's actually kind of looking at the phone. His ears would be around there. That's his face. About his nose and about his mouth. So, and then he'll have his like phone. We'll put the phone like right around here. So we'll just put like a little placeholder for a moment, just to kind of show around where I want his phone to be. I'm probably gonna make it like a nice old-fashioned kind of flip phone. I might go download an image of the phone too to like make sure I know what I'm looking at. Just kind of draw some fingers here, just so I know roughly where his fingers are going to be. And his thumb's going to be like out here, since that's where your thumb would be anyway. So roughly around like that, since it's kind of knuckling in anyway. Yeah, we'll kind of at least make it look a little bit better than that. It just like looks really bad. Oh well. I'm not the best artist in the world, but I never claimed to be. We'll have some like light coming off of there. So that's kind of just my quick. This is literally just quick gesture, rough blah thing. Now I'm gonna quickly just like go in and just make sure. I might move him over and just kind of rework it a little bit, and then I'll tighten it up in just a moment. So I will be right back. Alright, now as you can see here, I did a little bit of detailing here and here. I moved this guy over. I moved him over so that he was a little more centered, so that there wasn't so much empty space on one side. At least now it's even. I might need a little reworking on the pose or such, but for right now I'm satisfied. As you can see here, I did more detail on the face. Now, right here, I'm going to go in a little more detail and actually show you me drawing this face as I uncover the microphone with a piece of paper. There was a piece of paper sitting over top of the microphone. I don't know why. So yeah, I'm going to kind of go into more detail on this panel down here. In fact, I think I'm going to zoom in a little bit and try to get more in-depth on this page. So I'm going to do that right now. So 1 second, please. Alright, as you can see, I zoomed in a little bit here. Oh, I hate that squeak. I hope the quality is still good, and I hope I got it centered right. I could only move I can only physically move the camera in so much, so I kind of zoomed in a little bit. I hit the camera using the camera's natural zoom. So I hope this isn't too bad. So as you can see here, I have him looking at his phone. I tried to get this to kind of be up on the page like that. So let's see. This line here is his eyes. This is his nose, and this is where his mouth will be. So from here, I know that I can go like that right away just to knock that out. I know I can get that. That'll be at the tip of his nose. And then I can do that. Trying to stay within the boundaries here. I marked up the table a little bit so that I can always see when I'm like where I am. And let's just kind of throw in the ear real quick, just to get it out of the way. Something wrong with my throat today. I keep getting like a gag feeling, which not good, because it makes it when I'm talking I feel like I'm gonna gag for no freaking reason. So please bear with me on that. So let's get that done. Since this is kind of a partially collared jacket, part of his neck will be covered, and then that'll be the back. So here we're just going to kind of show that he has a cigarette, so draw on the cigarette, little fleeks for the smokes, and then we'll just kind of... That's how I kind of... And I'll leave that all white, and you can see I kind of did... where is it? Right here, I kind of did the same thing to kind of outline his face, because I'm going to put heavy shadows here. So that's kind of a way of outlining his face. Okay, as you can see here, I also detail his hair. It's kind of a messy, spiked hair. More traditional in anime and manga. But I like mixing comic book styles and such, because you can see here in the eye, I used a more comic booky style eye. And even the way the face is, it's more comic bookish. So I'm kind of mixing and matching my influences together. And the shadowing is definitely going to be comic booky, meaning it's not going to be toned. It's going to be just anything that's in darkness is going to be black. So let's go here and let's see how I did his hair there. So I have like a part above his eye. Although I should probably put his eye in real quick. And since this is sideways, his eye is pretty much just going to be a triangular shape. Like that. With his eyebrow here. I get a little fancy sometimes with the eyebrows, depending on how close the image is, like how close I am, how close the zoom is on the character. Ears I always stay pretty simplistic on, just because I'm not trying to draw hyper detailed ears, so I usually keep it pretty simple. Alright, and then obviously he's got his nostril here. So you can see I've taken influence from both Western and Eastern kind of styles. Gonna do that. Always got to double check to make sure I'm on the page. Okay. And I know here he's got like kind of a spike there. And go across his eye. And then kind of do that. And then just kind of branch it off into his upper hair. Sorry if I go quiet every now and then. Just bad habit, I guess. Whenever I'm not needing to talk, I don't talk. And then kind of spike here, and then I guess even here I can kind of do that just to kind of connect it together. And there you go. That'll be all black. Just to show that he is looking down. Kind of do that. And there we go. Got him all kind of detailed out. Little part of his head sticking through there. Yeah, wrong end. Alright, there we go. So, now here with his hand, I'm terrible at hands. Just horrible, especially with hands like this in this angle. So please do not hate me for very badly drawn hands, because I'm just, especially with hands at this angle, because this is a really awkward kind of angle. Because he's holding the phone, so it's not like it's a very great angle there to work with here. So I'm trying to kind of work with what I can do, what I know I can do, that kind of sort. And I know this is going to be kind of a three-dimensional shape, so I'm going to adjust that real quick. And I'll do more detail later when I go into especially when I go into the actual final phases of cleanup and such. And I'll probably black most of that in anyway. So, yeah, I know that hand looks like crap, but I'm not that great with hands, so that's kind of the best I can do at the moment. A lot of this will be in heavy shadows, especially like this area and back here, because in fact, if I just show you here, this is kind of like following the shape of his face. I'll probably blacken most of that. I know the hair will be all black, so that's pretty much it for the as much as I would do for penciling stage, just because the next part I'll probably be using the pencil just to go in and finalize some of these lines. Now, I might go in more detail on a regular page that I was doing, but remember, this is just for kind of a tutorial for you guys, so I don't want to go too much into it and be having this video be much longer than it really needs to be. It's already really long, so I think I'm just going to quickly darken the lines in with my black pencil, just to kind of make it a little easier for you guys to see the final lines. And I'm also going to zoom back out, and then I'll be back with a few more words before we go over to the next stage. So be right back. Alright, as you can see here, I went ahead and did pencils. Also, excuse the crap down here. I realized that his hand was wrong, because in this one I show him looking at his left hand, but I accidentally drew him with his right hand, with the phone in his right hand, so I had to fix it so that he was holding it with his left. So, continuity issue there, but I fixed it. Now, in this stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan this as is, because normally when I ink digitally, just because the quality is a little cleaner. But for you guys, I'm going to ink it traditionally. But I want to also make a separate video completely on digitally inking, so that you guys can see that process as well. So I'm also going to quickly go away. Now, also what you can do in this stage as well is you can kind of show where you want the shading to be. Like here, I showed that I want that kind of to be blacked in. So what I would do here is I would kind of also show that I do want a lot of this blacked in and dark. I know his hair is going to be all black pretty much, so I could pretty much go ahead and darken that in. I might go in and add highlights. Excuse me. He's wearing a black shirt, so that's something I'll also do, is just kind of show that his shirt is black. Another thing you can do is just add an X. If you're going to be giving your stuff to another inker, add X's for large areas that you think are going to be completely black. Like for me, I also want this background to be completely black. And here I forgot to do his little cigarette. And then the trail of smoke. So I'll probably have a lot of this this in black, and then I'll just highlight him a little bit. For the front part, since his cell phone is giving off light, a lot of this will be lit, and I'll even have little specks of this lit. So this part can be completely black without having to worry about it. For this area, I'll probably just add a halo around him to add that kind of effect. So that's pretty much it for that. In the next stage, like I said, I'll scan this, so I'll have a copy on my computer for the next video I want to do. I think it's time that I move on to the inking stage, and I'll be showing you the tools I'll be using and kind of my personal tools, that sort of thing, and give you kind of my opinion on stuff like that. But yeah, on to the next phase. Alright, welcome to the inking stage of our creating a comic book page. Now, the tools I will be using to ink this page, as I flashed by just a second ago, I'm using regular felt tip markers, marker pens. The three main markers I'll be using, in fact, actually I want to grab a different one. These are the three I want to use. Micron Sakura pencils. I use a 3, 5, and 8. I use the 5 for the first layer. I use 3 for sometimes for the insides, the inside of the faces and all. And then I use an 8 Sometimes I use an 8 for certain layers if it needs a thicker border, especially for the outer borders. These things I use 8 on the panel borders. I use this and this. This is a Prismacolor Premiere. It's black. It's got a fine edge and a thick end for filling in large areas. This I use to fill in areas, smaller areas. It's a brush type tip, so it lets me get into small areas. But I also use it for a trick where I outline the outer edges of everything, the characters I draw, just to give them a little more thickness. So those are the tools I'll be using in this video. So, all right, let's just get started, and I think I'll start with my 5. Actually, I'm going to start with the 8. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do all the borders. I want to do all the borders first and get them out of the way so that I can kind of focus on everything else. I'm going to do all that in outside. I'm not going to record that just to save time, since that's not really important to watch. Excuse me. So I'll just do that real quickly, and then I'll be back, and I'll start inking the actual characters and pages and such. So be right back in a moment. All right. As you can see here, I did the borders. I erased a little bit up here just so I could see it a little better. Down here, I'll end up having to erase. I'll end up erasing all of it pretty much once I'm done inking. So let's get right into it with the number 5 micron pen, which is what I kind of like to do anyway. Although, because of this panel being so small, I think I'm going to quickly do it with the 3. And hopefully you can see this well enough. The way I ink kind of more just try to ink in a way that I'm basically just outlining everything I did, sticking to it pretty clearly. This is not more or less the traditionalist way of inking. The more traditional way of inking would be with either a brush or a quill pen, which kind of has a metal tip and it goes down to a point, and you would use a bottle of India ink. These have India ink in them, but you get a different effect from using the brush and ink tool techniques than you would this way, because this way the lines are very flat. As you can see, it's a solid line, but it's still very flat and not as full of life as a lot of artists would hope that their stuff would be with this technique. But at least this way, it's a cheaper way of going, more or less a cheaper way of going, I should say. And it's also a little easier for the newer artists to kind of get into it a little quicker, because they don't have to focus on learning the technique of the brush or the pen and getting that technique down. But this is a good way of starting out, and for a lot of manga and Japanese style artists, this still today especially, this kind of is a nice alternative and a nice way of doing it. I would rather prefer to do it the other way, which is why I do it digitally sometimes, because then I can do it that way, simply because of pen pressure and such. Alright, move down to this panel, do the hair first, and you generally want to go this way along when you're inking, like ink in this direction, like ink this, and then ink this, and then ink this, so you're not smearing. Now, I did this up here, so I don't mind moving over here, because I know I won't smear it. And I generally move the page around a lot, so be aware of that. I move the page a lot when I'm inking, just because I get the better angles, because you want to use your wrist sometimes, but you also want to use your the pivoting. You want that pivoting motion to go with. Now, since I'm using a small page, I'm going to use my wrist mostly. But some artists will use their whole arm and use their elbow as the pivoting. So all you want is that pivot motion to get that nice clean line work. Go away. So I use the 3. I'm going to switch to the 5. I use the 3 on the smaller image just because it made sense, but I'm going to use the 5 on this since it's a little bigger. there's not much of a difference really between these two pens, the 3 and the 5, but there is enough to make me want to use the thicker one, because it does kind of give you the little bit of a thickness, which kind of gives you a little bit of depth that you usually lose if you use these types of pens. So some of the ways you can kind of get away with it is using thick and thin pens to kind of create that illusion of thickness. And you can even go back sometimes in and add tapering points and line weights and such to kind of give you that effect if you still want it. But normally with this type of pen situation, you can't really get that effect on its own. So it's just something to think about. Now normally I would probably time lapse this just to save save your guys time really. But just for this part, I'm going to do as much as I can in real time as my camera will allow me. That's always been my problem, is the camera can only record for so long. So I'm always having to stop and restart and all that kind of stuff. Let's do a 3 to kind of get the detail in here, especially with the eyes. Normally I'm very detailed with my eyes just because I really enjoy drawing eyes. But since this is kind of a further away shot, it's you would have a hard time seeing the detail anyway, so it's not as big of a deal being a little less detailed, and some of that's going to be blocked out anyway. Alright, let's switch back. I don't want to... Also, be warned with these types of pens, you might want to go slow, because the slower you go, the more ink that can get on the page, and that's a good thing because you want a good amount of ink on the page, so that when you go back and erase, you don't lose too much of it. Because when you erase, it is going to pick up some of that ink, simply because the way an eraser works. If you have a kneaded eraser, you're better off, just because it won't delete as much information as a regular rubber eraser would, because the rubber eraser is going to pull up parts of the page at times. It's actually going to dig into the paper. So sometimes it'll actually pick up your ink lines. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you sometimes go over maybe a couple times, or just go slow so that more ink comes out. Which is what I try to do, especially on like borders. Like the borders I went a little slow on. And as you can see when I erased, it does lighten them a little bit, but not too badly. Let's see. Now I think I'm running low. I got 7 minutes more to go with, so I think I can do this all in one shot. Even though this is a smaller image, I'm still going to use this 5 just to make it look consistent. That's one thing you don't want, is inconsistency in your inking, especially with these types of pens, just because of the way they work. I'm going to add an ear in there just because I forgot to put one in there. It's heads down, so it's kind of a weird angle. I'm not used to these types of angles, so I'm just going to do that. And I'm actually going to end up using this smoke maybe to save me later, but I'm still going to ink. Now because of the angle, this one kind of got a little skewed and messed up looking, but I'm going to keep it as is for now, just because I don't feel like spending an hour fixing it. Because I know how I could fix it, but I also know how long that would take. And I don't really have that much time to sit around and fix every little mistake I make. At least not in this. You know, this isn't professional. I mean, if I was doing this more for a professional thing and somebody was paying me for this, I would be spending a lot more time making sure everything was perfect and making sure all the lines are where I want them to be. So, and for your own personal projects, you can also maybe take a little more time into doing things. I'm just going to fill this in right now, just because it's a small area. And for the eyes and all, I just did like lines, which is what the old comic book artists used to do, is they would just black, dots basically for the eyes. Which you can't blame them for, really, but and just to kind of show a little, I'm gonna do like this and just kind of show that there's something going on in there, like there's a sound effect or something coming out there. So I'll fix that up later. And then this big old face, which is kind of the important face, I'm definitely going to take my time on this one. This is kind of a nice detailed shot of his face. And it's more zoomed in, so there's a little more detail. Not much more, but a little more, because I'm not the type to over detail, which is why I like anime and manga a little bit, just because the time they take to, instead of over rendering and over detailing, sometimes they'll be a little more subtle with it, just because I feel that they're spending more time trying to get the emotion down more than they are trying to get every little wrinkle in the face down perfect, and I respect that more, and that's how I like to draw. I don't like to feel like I'm forcing too much detail, because then I feel like I'm cluttering the page with information that is pretty useless. And even though I know most of this ear is going to be in black, I still want to draw the details just so I know where they're going to be. How much time? I still got a little bit of time. A few more minutes. So let's and then just quickly draw that in. Draw little flicks of stuff. Oh, that hand. I'm going to draw it in, but I'm going to stall that hand just because I hate the way it looks. I'm going to extend that out a little bit just to make it a little nicer. And then I got to do this right here. Get that, do that. Working a little quicker here. I know I can always clean stuff up later. And also, this kind of gives you an idea of, like, when you're on a timeline, things can get a little hairy. So that's kind of how I'm working at it. I'm on a deadline, so I don't want to be late. I don't want to be late for my deadline. So I'll darken that in a little better later. And then I don't want to ink that right now. So yeah, I'm gonna finish. I'll kind of finish the inking. Just finish the little details, and then I'm gonna erase a lot of the detail or a lot of the pencil, and then I'm just gonna do kind of final words while I erase it as I fill in the blacks. So be right back to finish this up and talk about more. Alright, as you can see here, I kind of took my eraser and really erased everything I could get rid of. Almost lost the pencil there. Haha, saved it. Okay, now it's time for me to go in with these things, and I think I'll bring back my 8, actually. Go in, and we're going to just kind of blacken in any areas that need to be blackened. You can see there's still some blue left. I'm not concerned with that at all right now, because I can get rid of the blue on the computer. So right now I just want to quickly fill in any areas that need to be filled in, and I'm using my little brush here. This is my brush marker. And I'm just going to quickly fill in black areas. And that's a large black area, so let's do this. Since this will give me a little bit thicker. Well, I guess I could try to use the large end, but this thing's hard to control sometimes. As you can see, it's not the easiest to control. But once I get kind of that, once I kind of broaden that out, then I can kind of go back in and kind of just kind of go in and blacken everything out. Now, you'll notice a little bit of the lines are not as dark as they were because I erased the pencil that was underneath them. And that is, it'll happen, and you'll notice that when you do it too, sometimes it'll happen. Do not worry about that. You can easily fix that by just going back over it a little bit after you've erased. And it's another reason to mostly use the blue as much as possible, because if you use the blue more, you won't have that problem. And I'm being a little sloppy here with the filling here, just because I know I can just go in with a like this number 5 and just quickly fill in those tips. I don't like adding too many highlights, especially when I'm doing like with black hair and such. I like to just be straight solid blacks. I like the really solid looking color of black. I don't color my art ever, really. I just I don't like to. I really don't. I like black and white, and you can do what you want. I mean, it's your artwork. You can do you can color it if you want. You can have someone color it. That is a option that a lot of the professionals do. Sometimes they'll have colorists who do the coloring for them. That is a viable option, and one that you can explore, especially if you know someone who really likes to color. This hair is black. I can also do this. This is another reason why you really kind of want to get the big paper, because then doing this is so much easier. Just kind of go in and quickly do that. There we go. Oh, can't forget the little corners. And I don't want to leave that open too long. And then I come back in with this. This marker pen I'm using is a really nice one, although I don't particularly like it too much, just because it starts to fray at the tip. So it's not that great, and you can't really get a good taper off on the end. Like by taper, I mean you can't really get a good thinning effect where you have a line that goes from thick to thin. So it's not the best in the world, but it's great for doing this, like filling in areas like this. When you have large areas of black, you have to kind of really fill in. So I'm just gonna. Especially when there's small areas like this, like they're not too large. Like the really, really large areas of black, I would suggest kind of just filling in with a big marker. Or you can also just, here, I'm just going to black all that in. You can even go in with a, digitally, and just quickly fill that all in, which is something I would recommend doing just because it's really easy. And now, real quick, what I'm going to do here is I do want a little bit of highlighting here. I am going to fill that in a minute. But I do want some highlights here. So I'm just going to quickly throw in a few triangles where I think I'm going to leave light. Like that. I'm actually going to have that be a nice big bright thing there. Just little specks of light. So that'll kind of give me a nice little way of just kind of going, I don't want this entire area in black. Just because I do know that there even though I like black and white, there would be a highlight there. Like at least a couple highlights right there. So I'm going to throw in a little bit of highlighting, not too much. I never throw in a lot of highlights. And then I'm just going to kind of broaden that in right there. Like that. And let's see, that's the 8, that's the 5. Quickly throw in these lines here. I know this isn't the most interesting thing in the world to watch, and I probably should just time-lapse this, but I don't know, I just don't feel like time-lapsing. I don't want to just like skim through it all, you know. At least this way you kind of get to see how I'm doing it, and you get to see my arm, my hand motions. You get to see how fast I'm actually doing this. Sometimes with time-lapse you lose a little bit of that, and I'm actually going to move these spikes down a little bit. I'm going to, that's the one thing I do like about ink. What I can do here is I can quickly adjust things as I see fit, which is something I could do digitally too, so it just kind of gives me a nice little option to quickly adjust, especially right here, since that would technically be like that. So here's a little like woo, but oh god, I hate that squeak, but you know, it works. And here I'm just going to quickly go in and get rid of these areas because these are going to be a pain to try and get in there with. So I'm just going to do those real quick. These are little tricks you can do, like especially if you have a point area. Take one of your smaller pens and just kind of fill in the tip areas, just because it'll be a lot easier to get them done that way. And then you can just go in with your bigger brushes. Let me close the door real quick, since my father is home, and I don't want to get that little annoyance there. So let me just quickly do this. Get all that done. Especially in this area right here. These little tips of the hair are really hard to get to. So I want to get to them easier this way. And any areas I think will be kind of annoying to get to. So just like that. Cool. All right. Oh, don't want to leave that edge there. All right. Now we can go in with this. Actually, yeah, I'm just going to quickly do that real quick just to outline. Since I know that's going to be black, I want to darken that a little bit. Take care of all these little issues here. Go around the ear. And then, since I have it with me, I'll go in with this and really fill in. Much bigger strokes with this one. Make sure I fill it in. It'll bleed a little bit. And then right here I can kind of go into, because I need this to be like that. Since there's going to be highlighting there. All right. For shadows on the faces and all, I think what I did was I'm going to kind of go like that, have it come out from his eyebrow, and kind of go like that. Since he's going to have light coming this way, all this is going to be very dark. So even this will probably be like that, and then that'll all be X'd out. That'll all be dark, so I'm not going to worry about that. Although I might put a little bit of lighting there. Like have like a little speck of light there. That'll all be in darkness except for like right there. And then that'll all be black. So let's just quickly notify myself of where these blacks will be. Just to kind of give myself something to work with here. And then just go in there and go crazy. Yeah, I'm going to go crazy with that. I'm going to go like full on black with some of these areas. Just because I really want to sell that dark point. Of just how dark I really want this to be. In fact, I'm going to go full on black back here. Really sell that feeling of noir and real darkness there. Really sell that effect there. Do it here too. Kind of get the darkness there. A little speck there. There we go. It kind of really sells the effect too, and since it's got light there, I'll show a little bit of darkness here. Since a lot of this will be in the dark as well, since he's holding it. A lot of his hand will be darkened out too. Especially this side. There we go. This kind of also saves me a little bit of annoyance with that hand. I can kind of just black out the hand and hey, look, it looks better already. So yeah, that's basically how I ink. I'll do a few touch-ups there, and wow, that's really bulging out. So I'll probably scan it in, do some final touches, and then I'll be back with some final words. So be right back with the final cleanup stage. So, all right. I just wanted to now show you the next start of the page. I kind of quickly went over that one more time with black ink, and I almost forgot to show you this part of the page, which is actually very important. This is the part where I go back and I outline him in a thicker black line to kind of pop him out from the background. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm quite literally just going to go over him, his outsides, all the outside area with black. A very thick line, you know, this way it kind of gives you depth, makes him feel like he's actually standing out of the page a little bit. And I'm using my brush tip pen just to make it a little easier. So let's go over here. I think that's dry now, right? Yeah, it's dry. That's a very important thing. Do not put your arm on wet ink. Very bad thing to do. I'm trying to leave that gap for the cigarette still. A little bit there. This is something I kind of learned from Jonathan Rector. He's a really, really great comic book artist. He does a lot of videos on YouTube as well. And this is one of the techniques I saw him using, and he learned it from, I think, Freddie Williams Jr.'s how to basically was a kind of a how to make comics the DC way kind of thing. I don't remember the exact. I think it was digitally DC's Comics Guide to Digitally Inking Comic Books. I think is what it was, by Freddie Williams Jr. I think. That's a book I highly recommend. I I've skimmed over it a few times. Just kind of, I'll leave the cigarette kind of out of place. That way it kind of looks like it's in the back a little more. This is more or less just to kind of pop him out a little bit. Really sell that thickness of the lines. I don't really need to do the back since it's already pretty thick from that. So I don't really need to do anything there. And that's all going to be blacked out. So it's going to be blacked out, blacked out, blacked out, blacked out. This I'm going to actually have background scenery, so I don't want to black all that out. Make that really noticeable. This is all going to be white, and I'm going to have text here. The caption is going to go here, so that's why that's still open. You can see it kind of pops him out a little bit and makes him a little more easy to see. I can now go back in with my 3. And what I can do here is I can kind of add a little bit of tapers to some of these lines, like right here where it kind of goes right into the neck or right into the jaw here. I might leave a little bit of area here. And I do want his face to be blackened out here. Oh, right here. I don't want that to look so sudden. So I'm going to add a little bit of line weight to some of these areas. Just to add a little bit of effect, you know. Make things look nice. Make things look nice and pretty. And make it look less jagged. And let's add a little more detail here. Some of these areas. Let's add a little bit of kind of effects here. A little darkness here, a little darkness there. This is just where I go in and kind of detail a little bit so it looks a little nicer, especially on certain areas. Make them look a little better so they don't look so flat. And that's the whole thing here, is you're just trying to make it look a little less flat. So by adding a little line weight here and there, you kind of give out that illusion of depth. Alright, let's see, right, yeah, definitely right here, where that kind of connects to it anyway. And especially here too. Kind of give off that effect, make it look a little more nice and thick lines. Here and there, ooh, sticking. Here on the face, it's not as much needed, it's because there's not as many areas there where it's really needed. So just kind of just work with what I got here. Just do that in black too, just to make it look cool. The hands are good, so that's pretty much all I would really do to finish that off. You can fill these blacks in right now. Like I could easily go in with this and just fill all that in with black, or you can just scan it in and do it digitally, which is kind of what I want to do. I also want to add a few more details here just to add a little more. There we are. Just add a few little folds in here and there just so it's not so boring looking. Especially here in the back, you're going to have a lot of folds here. In fact, you'd have probably one nice little fold area. Especially in the arms, you kind of have, you sometimes have multiple folds, so don't want it to look too flat. Here in the leg, I guess since his pant would kind of create like one long fold all the way up here, I'll do that. And sharpen it a little bit so it doesn't look so boring. Ugh, I think I'm like choking myself from looking down so much. I guess these kind of jackets do have that one line here for your for the band around the shoulder. So I want to put that in. Also, let's see, right here, I don't really want to clutter that any more than it already is, so that looks nice now. Oh, and I guess this too would also need to have fold areas. So let's not forget the back. And even here would also have a few folds. just so it looks a little more like cloth. And I think that's good. I think we're good there. So, might add a little bit of rendering here just so it's not so sudden. Just adding a little bit of rendering. This is all I do for rendering, is I just make little triangles and I fill them in a little bit, make them black. Just so that there's not such a sudden cut off there, I guess. Although, you know me, I like things very simple and effective, but I think actually that adds a nice little effect to it too. So I might even do a little bit here. Just kind of like that, and just kind of do that. And just fill it in. Sorry if I'm talking a little too quiet for you guys to hear. And I think that actually adds just enough detail. I'm just going to do a little bit like right here, just to, so it's not so drastic of a, white and then black. At least this adds a little bit of effect to it. Move that up a little bit. There we go. Cool. All right, so now I'm going to scan this in, and then I'll do some final words of wisdom, if you want to call them that, and then we will be done. So, sorry for hitting the camera. I will be right back with some final words. All right, as you can see here, I've decided to do this traditionally to just fill the blacks in, and I think it kind of creates a very cool effect. Personally, I think it creates kind of a cool little effect there. So basically what I had done, I'm just going to do this while I talk. Basically what I had done was I went in with these two brushes. I used this brush to kind of go around all the edges and kind of any areas I didn't want ink, or I didn't want this thing to kind of go overboard with. And I went around them, and then I would take the broad end and fill in big areas, and then I would use the thin end to kind of fill in the rest. And that's basically all that's left really to do. The only thing left to do would be to scan this in, clean it up, just to clean up little bits, add little backgrounds and such to it, which in the next video, the digital inking video, I'm actually going to go ahead and show you how I would put these any backgrounds in, and the final parts, which is the very end part, which I think I'll just make that all one thing. I'm just going to make it the next video, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, how to make a comic book. The digital phase is what I'm going to call it, and that's where I'm doing everything digitally. Now, if you want to put a background in traditionally, you can do that. You can just draw it and then just ink it normally. You don't have to do what I'm doing, and that's going in digitally. So basically everything I've shown you now is all you really need to know generally on the page itself and how to put the page together. The rest is up to you on style and how you want to do it. If you have any questions, please just leave them in the comments, or you can ask me on Twitter. I do have a Twitter. I have a Tumblr too, but I don't use it as much. So Twitter would probably be easier. I do have a Facebook page, which I'll link that too. I'll link to the Facebook. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate anyone who likes this video and shares it and favorites and all that other stuff. I love getting feedback too, so please leave some feedback on what you thought of it and what parts should be in the next one, in the digital part of it. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Goodbye.